hey, I saw the new Jordan Peele joint, Nope, and I really enjoyed it. I really like this film. It's in my top 10 right now for the year. It might not make it by the end of the year. I don't know if it's as good as Get Out, although there are certain aspects of this production that I thought were much better than Get Out, such as the cinematography for this film. And if you know the cinematographer, he is the same DP for many of Christopher Nolan's movies like Dunkirk and Tenet, and I thought the movie looked really great, much better than Get Out. One of my biggest criticisms with Get Out was just the fact that it looked kind of like a cheap movie, and I think most people watching that movie won't notice or pick up on the things that I do, such as the warp stabilizer during driving shots, but that's something that does bother me as someone who's seen a lot of movies. It's just kind of distracting, and there's really nothing like that in this film. This movie looks really great. It's shot with IMAX cameras, I believe, and they even worked that into the story, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, I just really enjoyed the look of this film. I thought it looked really great, and I thought the special effects were great. I just had no criticism really with the look of the film there. It's definitely a much higher budget than Get Out. It's a pretty impressive spectacle at certain points. There isn't really a reliance on jump scares, which I thought was, good. There's maybe one that's kind of clever. It doesn't rely on like any kind of sting sound effects or anything. It's a very busy movie. There's a lot going on, and there's really not much else to say unless I give away the story, which I'm going to start to do at this point. If you've seen the movie, continue listening. If not, I'd highly recommend it. Maybe fast forward to my rating at the end if you want a rating. And I think it's probably better than Us, in my opinion. I think it's Jordan Peele's second best movie. I just don't think it's as good as Get Out. I think that's a hard movie to top. When that movie came out, it was such a game changer. People really loved that movie, and it was such a low budget. That's definitely one of the best movies to come out of Blumhouse. I think he just made this for Universal. I don't know if Blumhouse was involved at all. I also got the trailer for Oppenheimer at the beginning, which looks really good. Also, one thing, I really like Daniel Kaluuya in the film. I really like Keke Palmer. I thought they were both very good. Keith David, who's in The Thing, was in it. I think that's supposed to be a nod to The Thing, which I really liked. And also, Steven Yeun. I wish he was in the movie more, but he was really fucking fantastic in this movie. He's one of my favorite parts of it. I would definitely like to see it again to solidify my thoughts on it and on certain aspects of like what this movie was trying to say, because it can be a bit all over the place. And maybe if I had any criticisms, this movie could be a bit shorter. It could be just a solid 2 hours instead of 2 hours and 10 minutes. I think you could probably trim 10 minutes out of it. So yeah, if you haven't seen Nope, I gave you a weekend to see it, so I'm going to start talking about the story. I think many people who've seen the trailer or whatever know that this movie is about aliens. It's about a UFO, and I guess that's kind of what it's about. But as far as like what the subtext is, what Jordan Peele is trying to say with this film, I think the subtext here is about the mistreatment of people in the film industry, specifically animals and kids in the film industry. That's where the chimp thing fits in. The whole thing about the chimp like killing the cast of actors. Pretty effective scene. They do mention Siegfried and Roy, which if you don't know Siegfried and Roy, they were two illusionists or magicians who got mauled by the tiger they were working with, because that a tiger was part of their show, and I guess one night it just turned on them and started attacking them. I wasn't too sure if the chimp thing was based on real life or not, if that was based on a true story. So apparently, just looking it up, there was a kind of chimp attack that this movie could have been based on of sorts, but I don't know if it's specifically what Jordan Peele had in mind. I don't know if he took from that exactly. It's definitely this commentary about mistreatment of animals. Gordy attacks Steven Yeun's character in this film, and that clearly left him traumatized, and this other character, her face is all messed up. There's also the scene at the beginning when they're trying to film a scene with the horse, and Daniel Kaluuya's there trying to manage the horse, and the horse is receiving all this feedback. There's tons of noise, people trying to talk to Daniel Kaluuya, distracting him. There's all this yelling. The horse sees its reflection and freaks out. So the horse is being mistreated there to some extent. Even the UFO of the film, which they say is not a machine, it's actually a living animal that's like floating around, or they call it a UAP, I think too. It gets aggravated when you look at it and it eats. So that's basically what I got out of the hidden meaning of this film. To me, it's just about mistreatment of people in the film industry, particularly kids, having to do with Steven Yeun's character being traumatized and the other girl getting her face messed up, and also animals because of the horse scene at the beginning, and also mistreatment, I guess, of black people too in the industry, because, I think in that scene at the beginning when they're doing the scene with the horse, I don't think there were any other black people on set. I think it was all white people. I mean, I might have missed it, but, at least like the key players, like, the cinematographer, the actor, the director, and some certain other crew members, they were all white. Yeah, that's basically what I got out of it. I'd like to see it again to get more of that subtext. There might be even more going on there. I guess you could criticize the parallel story with the Steven Yeun character and the chimp thing. It didn't really have anything to do with the story necessarily, but I think it was a good way to like subvert what you were expecting to happen, and it fits in thematically with what the film is trying to say pretty well. There were certain parts of the story that felt rushed to me. I was a bit confused on the whole rivalry between the Steven Yeun ranch and how the kids went on OJ's farm to like play a prank on him. I felt like that whole part of the story was rushed. I just wasn't very clear on what was going on there in terms of their like, I guess they were having some kind of rivalry or something. I wasn't too sure. There's definitely a lot going on with it, maybe too much, and it just could have been trimmed. And I don't know exactly what you'd cut out, but I feel like there's just little things that could have been trimmed out. I'd also say that the tone of this film, it's balanced pretty well. It's a comedy, but it's also a horror film, and it's a thriller, and it blends in those elements of science fiction, and it does become kind of an action film. But I thought all of it was pretty well like balanced, and it really flowed well. I thought it flowed better than I thought it would, seeing the second trailer of this movie, which I thought was a bit tonally a mess. But watching the whole film, I think it worked pretty well, all the different tones they were trying to balance. The comedic parts of the movie worked, and then there were scenes that were like really effective horror scenes. Like, I think my favorite scene was when the UAP was hovering over their house and all the blood like drooped down. I thought that was really cool. I really enjoyed that sequence in like a visceral horror way. And then yeah, it goes into these other things, and I thought it was like pretty well balanced, all things considered. I do appreciate a film, especially like an original horror film, that is willing to take chances and do things that are different. At least this film isn't boring. At least it has like lots of memorable things about it. Even if it stumbles over itself a bit, I do think it still works as a whole. I'd still like to see it again. I thought it was a very entertaining movie, and if I had to give it a rating, I'd give it an 8. It's not as good as Get Out, which I also gave an 8. If I gave Nope like a more specific rating, it would be like a 7.9 or 7.8. which is close to an 8. I'm just going to round it up to an 8. But I definitely feel Get Out is a bit better story-wise, originality, and also in terms of its like cultural impact than I think Nope will probably be. I mean, Nope has only been out for a week, so we'll see. It could have a huge impact, but I don't think so. I think Get Out is that film that had like the huge impact, and this is just like a solid science fiction horror film, and yeah, it's just a lot of good stuff in here, like a lot of good performances. Like I said, Daniel Kaluuya, I like his understated performance. I like that he doesn't really have a lot of dialogue in certain scenes, and there's a lot of scenes of just like no dialogue and just quiet, and like him thinking, him figuring out what to do. Like, there's a lot to like interpret there. There's just like a lot going on here. There's a lot to dissect and talk about. I was having a conversation with my friend after, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about. It's a very cool movie. This is definitely the kind of thing I want to see. I want to see more of, released in theaters. And yeah, it was super ambitious and fun, and it's a lot of different things, and it balanced it all well, and I really like this film. So go check this out when you can.
Yeah.